Ah, the 90s. Smells a bit like teen spirit. Greetings, fellow Curiosity Voyager. I'm here to tell you about a hardware modification for the Nintendo 64. It took a few months of hard work to get this one done. Let's get into it. So let's take a look at how we arrive at this shiny piece of Zelda jewelry. Part of my journey has been to revive every piece of tech in my collection, making sure everything on the shelves worked. During this process, I fell in love all over again with the Nintendo 64. Revisiting the N64 platform and seeing the possibilities really inspired me. I was so impressed with the level of creativity and the beautiful work that's really being done out there. I started finding ways to utilize NeoPixel's WS2812B inside the consoles for lighting. During my research, I found a couple of YouTube tutorials. They showed you how to backlight the N64 jewel, the logo area. I came across one from 3 years ago that showed a small LCD screen placed behind the jewel. I instantly saw this as a challenge. Get an LCD screen in there, not to augment, but to fully replace the logo. Trusty calipers in hand, I measured, I brainstormed, I searched. My brain took a left turn. I thought about my life choices leading up to a man in his mid-40s heavily modifying a 1990s video game console. But even with those unexpected left turns, I came up with an overall plan and I set out to execute that plan. Tracking down the right size LCD and a way to control it was a very difficult task. If you look at Mundo's video, he struggles with the same problem. I ended up finding a Waveshare branded LCD with a built-in ESP32-S3 module. It's similar to the size of a watch. In our case, it will take the place of the famous N64 badge, logo, jewel, whatever you want to call it. It turns out Nintendo wasn't really messing around when they made the Nintendo 64. Well, at least the shell portion. The plastic is thick, it's hard to get through. Here's a montage of me making that happen. The first test fitting was ugly. It took a lot of work to get to the depth in the plastic shell that was required to fit this screen into the unit. I knew I needed a mounting bracket, a 3D mount to secure the screen into place.
Yeah, that's one fine-looking barbecue pit. Why doesn't mine look like that? Why must life be so hard? Why must I fail in every attempt at masonry?
Breaking out the calipers once again, and knowing the limitations of my own 3D modeling skills, I had the part designed by a professional based on my ideas and measurements. I also do not have a quality 3D printer at my disposal. I had to outsource the print. Once I got the first prototype in hand, it took many hours of sanding, dremeling, and nearly all of my patience, and it still looked bad, but it did work. Theory proven. It fits. Time to make it look good as well. About 30 iterations, 2 major revisions, a few online orders, and several changes to international trade policy between the US and China later, I had all the materials to put my plan into action. I decided on a Zelda theme using a deep green replacement shell. I did some test fittings on a smoke transparent shell. It turned out a lot better once I knew exactly how much plastic I was removing and how deep I needed to go. I took the time to retire the capacitors that had been around since the first airing of Futurama and were still kicking 2 cancellations and subsequent revivals later. I gave the board the proper RGB modification so we get the best possible video output. Then I got to work laying out the NeoPixels, filament LEDs, and green flickering LED bulbs inside the case, custom fitting each one of the strands into the case and checking for fitment along the way. One of the overlooked things is, if you're going to have multiple lights, you need to distribute power. That means you need to design a system to power your design. I'm using some small buck converters on the 12-volt rail coming directly from the primary console switch. I've added a secondary switch so you can turn off the screen and the lights. I'm using an ESP32-S3 board to run the NeoPixel lights. I've chosen the 12-volt rail from the power supply for both my 5-volt and 3.3-volt needs. The N64 does natively have a 3.3-volt rail, however, it's very dirty and it would require a second circuit to implement. I found this approach works fine as long as you don't go completely crazy with the lights. This project has over 200 lights, but they're very small and the brightness is turned down to 50%. My inner 90s tween was ecstatic as I did a few tests of the lighting as it was being installed. My brain wanting, nay needing, to see this vision become a reality. It motivated my human body to get back to the workbench day after day after day. The closer I came to getting everything inside this N64 and having it look good, the more the anticipation built. I got nearly complete one night a few weeks later, but it was 2 a.m. and the final touches required a clear mind. I woke up early the next day to finish the build. Sourcing the correct size screen is one thing, but making it work is quite another. It's not like you can throw Windows on these things and say, play an animation. These devices need to be custom programmed. I did get a basic program running, but I wasn't satisfied with this. It didn't have that flair. I gave the tiny screen a web interface. It allows you to upload GIF files, manage the device, change the default animation, and change to the next or previous animation. You can also change the animation by tapping on the device, or jiggling it a little bit. The next version will include full touchscreen capabilities. It will allow you to change the animation, previous or next, by swiping. And here it is, a Nintendo 64 that bridges the gap between 90s nostalgia and modern technology. Complete with over 200 programmable lights, a custom LCD jewel that brings those classic gaming memories into the digital age. This thing took 3 months, too many prototypes, and more patience than I thought I even had. Seeing it come to life, oh, totally worth every moment, and questioning a few of my life choices. I've gathered all the relevant links down below, including a link to my Patreon, where you will find the 3D file and code to make the Waveshare device work.